Morning, good afternoon, good evening. Tonight, I'd like to concentrate on this, a few of them anyway, the articles that have been circulating on social media, clearly showing that the tide is turning. Zimbabweans are beginning to realize that we've been going round and round in circles. The caption I've got on the screen, you can't read it, I'll read it out to you. It's from Thabani Mpofu, and he says, "Let this be said now, and let it be said without any fear of contradiction. In the aftermath of the diabolical and criminal 2023 charade, no self-respecting person can participate in any elections in the absence of wholesale electoral reforms. This is the time to purposefully and meaningfully agitate for comprehensive and sincere electoral reforms. We can't be like lambs to the slaughter again." And as you can see, it's accompanied with a picture of the late Russian dictator, Joseph Stalin, who it is often quoted, said that it's not who votes that counts, it's who counts the votes. Ben, what do you think?
Good day to you and good day to our viewers. Thank you for joining us. The first thing that I would, if we were in the same room, that I would have asked was to say, what was so different in 2023 from all previous elections? What made it a good example? Or what made it so bad that wasn't happening in all previous elections? Because as far as we all know, and I think every thinking Zimbabwean knows, is that ZANU-PF has been rigging elections since independence. 2023 was just another rigged election, different methods, if we may say. But rigging is rigging anyway. After that, you would then ask him, oh, why now? Why are we calling it now? Why did it take us so long? Like you've asked to say, why has it taken Zimbabweans so long to realize that this is what has been happening? Wow.
Well, my personal take on this one is that it's about time. The tide is beginning to turn. People are really waking up to the reality that we've been participating in these flawed elections, knowing fully well the process is flawed, knowing fully well that by participating, we're giving ZANU-PF legitimacy. It's just that some people have refused to acknowledge it. But thank God, they're beginning to acknowledge it. And it is important that they are acknowledging it, because now we can start moving forward. The gentleman who is supposed to have sent this comment is Thabani Mpofu. I don't know whether it is the same Mpofu who was Nelson Chamisa, chief defense counsel in the Constitutional Court appeal of the results of the rigged elections in 2018. Because if he is, then he owes the people of Zimbabwe an explanation. This is a video clip of the proceedings in the Constitutional Court.
Zimbabwe have now held their recent elections, which went well.
International monitors had to force their way through angry crowds to deliver their verdict. They reported serious flaws in the process. It was not a level playing field. Many injured and 3 dead. The opposition says the shootings and the beatings cannot be justified. And an election in which Zimbabwe dared to dream has instead brought back its worst nightmares. There were running battles through the city centre and the streets echoed to the sound of gunfire.
Zimbabwe have now held their recent elections, which went well.
You are ready now to start. I am ready. You may start.
Thank you, my lord. What ZEC has done is to violate the constitution, to violate the Electoral Act in a manner which has ultimately benefited the first respondent. National and Central, page 159, the report by the ZBC, it does 2 things. Number 1, it mentions figures. Number 2, it attributes those figures to a ZEC official. It says by 5:30 p.m., 105,000 people had voted in National and Central. The final figure that one gets from ZEC is that an hour and 30 minutes later, plus 370,000 people voted. Is it humanly possible? But it doesn't end there. Then there is the issue of identical polling results. There are at least 16 polling stations with identical results. Identical results for Chamisa, identical results for Mnangagwa, identical spoiled votes. And in all those places, Mnangagwa not only wins, but wins big. It's like a kid who was playing with the figures. That, with respect, is not how an election is conducted.
We'll now give the opportunity to Mr. Kanengoni.
The Zimbabwe Electoral Commission cannot be taken to task to say, why is the voter turnout in my central at this particular level and not at that particular level? Voters behave the way they do. No one knows why. Maybe behavioral scientists may be able to answer the question if they study it.
Mr. Kanengoni, there's the averment that several polling stations showed identical results.
And the simple point we make is that there's no need to be theoretical about it. We have the returns. This is something that happened. We show you the returns. And we've put the returns for 2 of those polling stations here to illustrate the point.
You say it happened?
Yes.
But in his presentation, Mpofu says it's actually 16 polling stations where the identical results. You heard it?
Yes, we did. Even in the affidavit, they put a bit more of the polling stations there. But we chose this to illustrate to the court. But for the rest, it did happen. It did actually occur.
We'll now go back to the applicant. Why go for speculative conclusions of manipulation?
The point that I wish to make is that this is evidence of manipulation by ZEC after the process. Now, if you go to what they call the primary data, you're going to see manipulated data. So the applicant cannot ask a court to open residue which has already been manipulated. If you go to the residue, you will drink from a poisoned well.
Stop it there. The most important thing here is to see the obvious explanation of the 16 identical results. The lawyer emphasizes the point that in all those 16 cases, Mnangagwa performed very well. I think the explanation is obvious. The results of that polling station was being entered twice because Mnangagwa was doing well in those polling stations. There is no way you can have identical results in every respect unless you use the same V11 form to enter the results. That was the rational explanation. And the only way to confirm that is what happened, as the judge himself suggested, why go for speculative answers when you could go to the original data and see, confirm whether that has happened. In this case here, asking that the sealed ballot boxes of those 16 polling stations should be opened would have confirmed that there are actually 8 sealed boxes. It's just that that V11 was used again. It's a duplicate entry. And that would have established the fact. And it is not ZEC or ZANU-PF lawyer who said, no, we don't want to open the ballot boxes. It is Chamisa's lawyer. If there is any reason to believe that we are dealing with here with a mirage, the opposition has been ZANU-PF Team B, playing for Team A to win and making sure Team A has legitimacy. In this case here, for Team B, they would have known that demanding that the ballot boxes should be opened would have been embarrassing to Team A. And so they pretended they could not see the rationale of having the boxes open. They claim, no, we don't want to drink from poisoned well. No one is asking you to drink. If anyone is going to drink, it is ZEC itself. Because then ZEC will be put in an impossible situation. You entered these V11 forms claiming that they were from a separate polling station. When you could see, this cannot be a separate polling station. These were double entries to top up Mnangagwa's vote count. If this is not blatant vote rigging, I don't know what is. So this case here is interesting in that the people of Zimbabwe should know, we are not just dealing with ZANU-PF rigging the elections. we are also dealing with the opposition helping ZANU-PF to rig elections. That is the most important message. Ben.
You know, my take on this whole story is a bit different. What I would want to deal on is, look at it this way. David Coulter wrote a book about the insanity of participating in the 2013 election. And he explicitly pointed out that it was because of greed that half, the party would have gone and voted and the other one could have boycotted. So they couldn't risk losing out seats. So they all went into that election, knowing fully well. And after being told by SADC that ZANU-PF will rig those elections. Fast forward into the future, Tendai Biti stood up and said the same thing. It is madness to be participating in rigged elections. We have to stop. That didn't stop them. Now we are hearing Thabani Mpofu come up and say the same thing. After every single election, somebody from the opposition comes up and says it is madness to continue participating in rigged elections. But as soon as we head towards another election, they have since reverted back to their old ways, and they are the ones calling out for elections, saying that we will win these elections come what may. To me, it shows one thing, and they have always been saying that it is madness, and they are proving it, that they are the ringleaders, or they are the ones that are schooling in this school of madness. The opposition, like you said, is now part and parcel of the ZANU-PF rigging and looting machinery. They are just playing, they pretend to be crying with us during the day, but in the dead of the night, they are singing, dancing, and eating with ZANU-PF. And I've always said on this platform, either way you play, Zimbabweans, the ordinary citizen, is the biggest loser. And surprisingly, we have failed to realize it after 25 years with MDC-CCC and 45 years since independence. We are still being played the fool, and we are none the wiser.
I've got a video, an X message from Chamisa. In it again, sorry, it's a bit blurred. You can't read it. But basically what he is saying there in it is accusing ZANU-PF. Corruption must never be a fashion or a skill. You stole the elections, you stole the mandate, you stole gold, etc., etc. I find it interesting, if not really annoying, that Chamisa should be complaining about ZANU-PF stealing the elections, when he and his colleagues are the ones who, for the last 25 years, have enabled ZANU-PF to rig elections and stay in power. During the GNU, MDC leaders failed to implement even one token reform. If they'd done so, they would have dismantled the ZANU-PF dictatorship. The ZANU-PF would not have not been able to rig the 2013 elections. After failing to implement even one token reform during the GNU, ever since they participated in flawed elections, knowing fully well that the process is flawed, and knowing fully well that by participating, they're giving ZANU-PF legitimacy. But this is where we are. This is what we are dealing with here. And I would like to close by referring back to Stalin. It's not who votes that counts. It's who counts the votes. We know that election processes in Zimbabwe are so flawed, so illegal, you cannot win. The only logical thing to do is to withdraw. We have the fortune, unlike Russia, that we have got SADC, the AU, that have participated in these flawed elections and have condemned them as such. And if we do not participate, ZANU-PF will be denied political legitimacy. That is the operative word. And why we have keep on participating is because we have listened to MDC guys lying about they will win elections because they've now devised ways of winning rigged elections. The 2028 elections, the challenge is do not participate in the flawed elections. Because if you do not participate, you will deny ZANU-PF political legitimacy. SADC and the AU have already condemned the 2023 elections. And they would realize that if the people of Zimbabwe do not participate in big numbers and clearly say we are not participating because the process is flawed, SADC and the AU, I believe, would do the right thing. This will not be the first time they've done it. In 2008, they forced ZANU-PF to form the GNU because they refused to give ZANU-PF political legitimacy. My last word, for heaven's sake, let's do the right thing. Thank you, Ben. Do you want to give your closing remarks?
In closing, I would want to say we really need to wake up and see what is really happening here. Otherwise, we will risk losing everything. Another rigged election is what we cannot afford. So we need to put our act together.
Thank you very much, Ben. And thank you very much, those of you who were able to join us this afternoon. I hope you'll be able to join us again tomorrow, same time, 7 o'clock UK time, 8 o'clock Zimbabwean time. Good night.